Yes, hello guys, and welcome back to Champions League predictions. We have got some massive games coming in the UEFA Champions League this midweek, so as always we are here to predict them. Before we get into this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button. It takes 2 seconds and we're very close to 117,000. Make sure to hit the like button, we'll go for 2,000. Go on, it takes 2 seconds, and be sure to share your predictions down in the comments. There's lots of games to get through, so let's get straight into them. We start with Ajax versus Benfica. The bottom two in the Champions League table are facing off. The thing is, this time, they can't both lose. Ajax, of course, have been terrible in the Champions League so far this season. They lost 2-0 to Inter in their first game, 4-0 to Marseille, 5-1 to Chelsea, and then 3-0 to Galatasaray last time. They have been honkingly bad, but Benfica have not been much better. Of course, they've lost every game. They lost 3-2 to Qarabağ, 1-0 to Chelsea, 3-0 to Newcastle, and 1-0 to Leverkusen. So both teams have lost every game, and both teams really struggle to score goals in this competition. It would not surprise me if this finishes 0-0, because both teams just really can't put the ball in the back of the net. But I'm going to back Benfica because I think they've been slightly less terrible so far in this competition. I'm going to go Ajax 1, Benfica 2. Maybe Pavlidis, he's been popping up with a couple of goals. Maybe he might score, and I'll just back the away team. 2-1 to Benfica. Share your thoughts on that one. Next up, we go to Galatasaray versus Union Saint-Gilloise. Galatasaray are 9th in the Champions League table, which is incredible after they obviously lost their first game 5-1. Since then, of course, they beat Liverpool. That was a really impressive performance. They beat Bodø Glimt, and they just went away to Ajax and won, but everyone's winning at Ajax, to be fair. Union Saint-Gilloise did beat PSV 3-1 in their opening game, but since then they've lost every game and conceded 11 across their last 3 Champions League games. I'm going to go with the home team here. I just think the quality is going to be too much, and they've got the momentum on their side in this competition. Let's go Galatasaray 3, Union Saint-Gilloise 1. I'm going to go for the Turkish team to make it 4 wins out of 5. Next up then, and we go to Bodø Glimt versus Juventus. 2 teams that have both not won in the Champions League so far this season. Bodø Glimt started this competition with a couple of draws. They drew 2-2 with Slavia Prague and 2-2 with Tottenham, and then they've lost to Galatasaray and Monaco. Juventus had that crazy 4-4 draw with Borussia Dortmund on the opening day. After that, they drew 2-2 with Villarreal. They lost 1-0 to Real Madrid, and then they drew 1-1 with Sporting last time. Both teams need a result. They both need the win if they're going to have a chance of finishing in the playoffs this season. The money is surely on Juventus. They've got the better team, right? But I don't know. I think Bodø Glimt at home can be a real nightmare for some teams, and Kasper Hogg, of course, is always scoring goals. That said, Juventus have decent players. You got Locatelli and Yildiz. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, which is probably not a great result for either because it means they're both still winless after 5 games, but I'm struggling to separate the two. Share your thoughts on that one down in the comments. The next game then is between Borussia Dortmund and Villarreal. Borussia Dortmund have been great fun to watch in the Champions League so far this season. In their first 3 games, they scored 4 goals in each of them. And then last time, of course, they lost 4-1 to Manchester City in the Erling Haaland derby. So there's always a team that scores 4 goals in a Borussia Dortmund game. I'm going to back them to win 4-1 against Villarreal. I will give Villarreal a goal. They're 32nd in the table. They haven't won yet. They did pick up a draw against Juventus in their second game, but other than that, they've lost to Tottenham, Manchester City and Pafos. I've said before that I like Nicolas Pepe and Buchanan, but they're just not doing it. I do think Borussia Dortmund will win quite heavily. The next game then sees Chelsea take on Barcelona. This is such a good fixture. I love this one. Brings back so many memories. Of course, they've had some great battles over the years. Of course, there's been some great games at Stamford Bridge, and away at the Nou Camp, of course, Chelsea won with a last-minute Fernando Torres goal to send them to the Champions League final back in 2012 when they went on to win the competition. I'm struggling with this one. Chelsea have been pretty good in the Champions League. They lost, of course, 3-1 to Bayern Munich in their opening game, but since then they've beaten Benfica, Ajax, and then they drew 2-2 with Qarabağ, so pretty good. And if they win this, it would be a real statement. However, Barcelona have been pretty good, and they've also picked up 7 points in their first 4 games. They won their opening game, of course, against Newcastle with Marcus Rashford putting in a really good performance. They then lost to PSG at home, and then they beat Olympiacos 6-1, and last time they drew 3-3 with Club Brugge. Now, we all know the firepower that Barcelona have with Lewandowski and Ferran Torres, but Chelsea have been very good, not just in the Champions League, I think in the Premier League they've been pretty good, and they take on Arsenal next week as well, which is a really big game. Of course, Cole Palmer is out. He broke his toe stubbing it against a door. Don't know how he's managed to do that, but they've still got decent players, of course, in Caicedo and Neto, and they have the home advantage. Let's go for a draw. 2-2. I think this will be a really good game. Share your thoughts down below. I'm going to go for a draw. Next up then, we go to Manchester City versus Bayer Leverkusen. Manchester City have been pretty impressive in the Champions League so far. Haven't lost a game yet. They've beaten Napoli, Villarreal and Borussia Dortmund. They did have a draw in there with Monaco. Bayer Leverkusen have only won the 1 game. That came last time against Benfica. Before that, of course, they had that 7-2 defeat to PSG. And then before that, they had a couple of draws. Look, they've got Patrick Schick. I like him, but Manchester City have, Erling Haaland, and say no more. I think he's going to get a goal or 2. I'll go relatively comfortable. I'm just going to go 2-0 to Manchester City. I don't think they're going to even need to get out of 2nd or 3rd gear to win this one. So I'll go relatively comfortable, but I'm only going to go 2-0. The next game is between Napoli and Qarabağ, and this one's tricky, isn't it? Because on paper, I think Napoli are the favourites, but Qarabağ have been the better team in the Champions League so far. Napoli have only managed to pick up 4 points from their opening 4 games. That said, they've had some tricky games in there. Manchester City away, of course, and then they did get smashed 6-2 by PSV in one of those games. They did beat Sporting and drew with Eintracht Frankfurt at home. So with the home advantage, I think Napoli get something, but I'm going to go 1-1. I'm going to give Qarabağ something here. They drew last time with Chelsea, 2-2, that we've already touched on. I think they've been pretty solid in the Champions League. Let's not forget, of course, they won their first 2 games against Benfica and Copenhagen as well. And Qarabağ do have goals in this team. So I'll go 1-1. I wouldn't be surprised if either team wins that one, actually, though. The next game is between Marseille and Newcastle United. Newcastle United have been really good in the Champions League so far. Of course, they lost their opening game to Barcelona 2-1, but since then, they've won every game. And even in that Barcelona game, they could have got something out of it. Marseille, I think, are capable of winning this with the firepower of Greenwood and Aubameyang, but I think Newcastle might just snatch it. Let's back them. Marseille 1, Newcastle 2. Newcastle have been really impressive in the Champions League, and if they win this one, they'll probably jump into the top 3 or 4, which would be incredible considering Newcastle United are not really a Champions League regular. Well, no, they did make it 2 years ago, to be fair. I'm loving it anyway. I'm going to back them 2-1. The next game is a big one between Slavia Prague and Athletic Club. Both teams will really want the win in this one because they're both outside of the playoff places as things stand. Slavia Prague have managed 2 draws in their opening 4 games, and they've lost the other 2 to Inter Milan and Arsenal. They've had some difficult games. They have got goals in them. I like Thomas Chori. But Athletic Club, you've got Nico Williams, who I really rate. They've lost to Arsenal and Borussia Dortmund and Newcastle, but they did beat Qarabağ. I'm going to back Slavia Prague. I'm going to go with them to get their first Champions League win of the season. 2-1 to the home team. I just think home advantage might just tip this one for me. So I will give this to Slavia Prague. Next up then, we go to Copenhagen versus Kairat. Really interesting, isn't it? Because both teams, once again, haven't won yet. Copenhagen are 33rd in the table with just 1 point in their opening 4 games. Kairat, 34th in the table with 1 point in their opening 4 games. Kairat, of course, as we've touched on before, they are making their Champions League debut this season. Can they get their first Champions League win here? They've been better recently. Remember, they did lose their opening 2 games 4-1 to Sporting and 5-0 to Real Madrid. Since then, they got a 0-0 against Pafos and only lost 2-1 to Inter Milan away from home. But I think Copenhagen are going to win this. They've got a bit more nous and experience when it comes to the Champions League, and with the home advantage, they will be targeting this one. With players like El Yunusi and Makoko, I think Copenhagen will have too much for Kairat, and I'm going to say 2-0 to Copenhagen. A big win for the Danish side. Maybe they might still sneak into the playoffs. Who knows? The next game after that is Pafos versus Monaco. Two teams that are right next to each other in the Champions League table. There's lots of games this week where it feels quite close and quite tricky to predict a winner. Pafos did get their first Champions League win ever last time against Villarreal, winning 1-0. Of course, they picked up a point previously against Olympiacos in a 0-0 draw, so Pafos don't tend to score many, but they can keep the score down. Monaco will be coming into this game thinking they should be getting something, probably the win. They've got a good enough team to win this game, and you can make the argument they've had a difficult start. They've had to play Tottenham and Manchester City in their first 4 games. 1-1. I'm sorry, this game is really tricky to predict. I'm going for quite a few draws this week, but there's quite a lot of games where there's not a lot to separate the two. Monaco do seem to have the better team, but Pafos have the home advantage, so I'm going to go for them to cancel each other out. 1-1. The next game is between Arsenal and Bayern Munich. This is fantastic. A Serge Gnabry derby. There's plenty of players that have played for both Arsenal and Bayern Munich, but the reason this game is so exciting is because it's first versus second. It's 2 of the 3 teams in the Champions League so far that have won 4 out of 4 games, so something has to give. Arsenal are having a great season in both competitions, Premier League and Champions League, and they're still going in the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup as it goes, but obviously they haven't started that one yet. Bayern Munich, though, are just so powerful, and it was a real statement win to go and win away at PSG last time. We know the quality they've got. Gnabry, Harry Kane, former Tottenham player, of course. Diaz, I think Diaz is out for this game, though, but you've also got Elise. So, I mean, look at that. There's already loads of players that have played in the Premier League. Arsenal are very solid defensively. Gabriel is out, of course, though, which is a big blow. This is difficult, isn't it? Arsenal have the best defensive record in the Champions League this season. Bayern Munich have the best attacking record. I'm tempted to go for a draw, but I will pick a winner, and I'm going to go for Arsenal. 2-1 to the Gunners. A big statement victory for the Gunners, I'm going to say. I think Arsenal, with the home advantage, can do it. And who knows, imagine a Premier League and Champions League double this season. It's the stuff of dreams for the Arsenal fans. Let's back them. The next game is between Atletico Madrid and Inter Milan. Now, Inter Milan are that third team that we spoke about that have also won 4 out of 4 games. They've been very impressive so far in the competition. They've only conceded 1 goal across those 4 games as well. And you've got Chanaloglu, you've got Lautaro Martinez, you've got plenty of quality there. But this game will be difficult. Atletico Madrid are a solid team, of course. Narrowly lost to Liverpool in their opening game. They then smashed Eintracht Frankfurt 5-1. They lost 4-0 to Arsenal in a game which I don't think really should have finished 4-0, but there you go. And then they've beaten Union Saint-Gilloise last time 3-1. And of course, they've got Alvarez, they've got Griezmann, they've got plenty of great attacking options in this squad. But Inter Milan are very, very solid, aren't they? Let's go Atletico Madrid 1, Inter Milan 2. I'm just going to back the away team. A big statement victory for Inter Milan. This is one of their hardest games so far, but I think they're going to win again. The next game is between Eintracht Frankfurt and Atalanta. Another tricky game which is difficult to predict because you've got Eintracht Frankfurt who are 23rd in the table, just inside those playoff places. They've had a mixed start to the competition, winning 5-1 and then losing 5-1 twice and then drawing 0-0 last time against Napoli. Atalanta, of course, lost 4-0 to PSG in their opening game, but since then they've picked up 7 points in their last 3. Defensively, Atalanta have been very solid recently. But this is tricky. Eintracht Frankfurt, you just don't know what you're going to get with them. Let's go for a draw, 1-1. There's lots of close games, as I keep saying, and I'm going to go for quite a few draws this week. 1-1 is my prediction. The next game is between Liverpool and PSV. Liverpool are my favourites to win this one, of course, but as we've said quite a few times this season, they've not been perfect. They've certainly had their problems in the Premier League, but in the Champions League, they've been pretty good. They've picked up 9 points from their first 4 games, and considering they've played both of the Madrid teams at home, and then away from home they've had to play Galatasaray and Eintracht Frankfurt, I think Liverpool have done pretty well. They take on a PSV team who have scored quite a few goals in the Champions League so far this season. They've picked up 5 points from their 4 games, and of course, as we touched on earlier, they had that notable 6-2 victory at home. It's an old cliche, but I do like Liverpool under the lights on European nights. 3-1 to the Reds. I'm going to back Liverpool to make it 4 wins out of 5 and to tighten their grip on a top 8 finish in the Champions League this season. I'm backing the Reds. Next up then, we go to Olympiacos versus Real Madrid. Olympiacos are 31st in the table, having not won a Champions League game so far this season. They've picked up 2 draws. So the pressure is on them to probably get something here if they're going to give themselves a chance of finishing in the playoffs. But I just don't think they're going to get anything against Real Madrid, who have won 3 out of their first 4 Champions League games. They did lose to Liverpool last time, 1-0 of course. Real Madrid just have too much quality. They just do. It's just a matter of fact. They're going to have to be really bad for Olympiacos to win this, and I think Olympiacos will have to be really good, of course. They do have El Kaabi, who I really rate, and I'll give them a goal, but I'm going to go 3-1 to Real Madrid. I'm going to back the away team to make it 4 wins out of 5. There's 2 games left, and how about this one? Let's go to the capital of France. It's Paris Saint-Germain versus Tottenham Hotspur. It's a pretty difficult run of games here for Tottenham because, of course, they're coming into this on the back of playing in the North London derby at the weekend in the Premier League. Tottenham have had a pretty decent start to the Champions League campaign so far. They haven't lost yet. They've picked up 2 wins and 2 draws, but this is the ultimate test. PSG away. I don't know. It might be a close game. This is, of course, a repeat of the Super Cup final from the summer just gone, which did finish 2-2. PSG did win on penalties, of course. PSG have won 3 out of their 4 Champions League games. They did lose last time to Bayern Munich, and that was at home, but I think PSG are going to win this one. I'm going to go 2-0 to the French side here. I just think they've got too much quality. Sorry, Tottenham. It's not the end of the world if you lose this game, let's be honest. There's 1 game left, and it's between Sporting and Club Brugge. Sporting 13th in the Champions League table. There's definitely a chance Sporting could finish in the top 8 and go straight through into the round of 16. They've won 2 out of their first 4 games. They beat Kairat 4-1 and beat Marseille 2-1. They lost to Napoli and drew with Juventus, but at home, I do like them. Club Brugge, of course, beat Monaco in the opening game. They lost to Atalanta and to Bayern Munich, but last time they got an incredible draw with Barcelona in a game which finished 3-3. I like Solis. I like Tresoldi. I think Club Brugge are going to score. It's either going to be a draw or Sporting are just going to win. And I'm going to go with Sporting to make it 3 wins out of 5. 2-1 to Sporting. As we've said before, we like the firepower they've got there with Trincao and Suarez. And with home advantage, I trust them to win. Let's go 2-1 to Sporting. There you go then, guys. That wraps up my Champions League predictions. Plenty of big games coming this midweek. Make sure to share your predictions down in the comments. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like and make sure to subscribe. It takes 2 seconds to like and subscribe, so please be sure to do so. And we will be back with more Champions League predictions in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks for watching. Take care. Peace out.